Hiya, it's Carly from Kip McGrath Carlisle, and today we are looking at money. So when we're starting out with younger children, the best way to deal with money and things like that would be to do it practically. So to get some plastic coins or even some real coins if you've got enough, coins and notes, and get them just actually playing around with that. Looking at adding up different amounts, making different amounts from the coins. And we could look at, okay, say I wanted to make 15p. How many different ways can I do that? So the way that most people will do it is 10 and 5, but there are lots of other ways. I could get 15 1p coins. I could get lots of 2p coins and a 1p coin. I could get a 10, 2 2s and a 1. So sit them down, give them some coins and say, okay, how many different ways can I make this number? So that would be a nice practical way to start out understanding how we use money. And then you would go on to explaining that generally when people are dealing with money, they do try to do it in the least number of coins rather than using all these different methods. But it's still quite useful to know, because especially if they're working somewhere and they run out of a particular coin, they need to be able to make that amount using the coins that they've got available. Okay, so that's something you would start with the little ones. First, obviously, you're going to start out with literally recognising what the coin is. So what's this one? What's that one? Okay, so that's your simple stuff. Then when we're dealing with problems to do with money, it's just about understanding the idea of, if I go to the shop and I buy a few things, what am I doing? Well, I'm adding up the cost of all of those things. So that's kind of how we deal with word problems to do with money. But the big thing I really want to cover in this video is how to work out change with money. Now, the thing that the children find difficult about this is because generally, if we're doing, say, for example, the change from £5, if we spend £1.75, is what we would teach them to do is to do 500 take away 175. And children find it really difficult when there's 2 zeros with how to carry. Okay, obviously we're borrowing from our 5 and turning it into a 4, but children will automatically decide they want to put that straight onto here. Well, you can't do that, because we're not borrowing from this 500 and making this a 10, we're actually borrowing 100, so we're making this 100. And at that point, you then need to borrow from there and turn that into a 9 and pop it onto there. And that's where a lot of children will struggle. Even very gifted children find that really sort of difficult to get their head around to start with. And so I genuinely believe, even with older children, and especially this also links to time, which I'm sure I'll be covering shortly, but when you're dealing with money and change, it's actually easier to use a number line. So what I would do is I would say, okay, we're starting at £1.75 or 175p, and I would say, right, what do I need to do to get to the next 10p? So the next 10p would be £1.80 or 180p, whichever one they're more comfortable with. What would I do? And if they need to, they can count up. £1.75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 5p. And they do a little jump on their number line to say that they've got 5p. Obviously, as they get more confident, they don't actually need the physical number line. They could just jot down, okay, 5p to get to the next thing. When I'm at £1.80, I then encourage them to look at, how do we get to the next pound? So the next pound is £2 or 200p. How are we going to get there? So we're at £1.80. How many tens do we need? So 80, 90, 100. So I need 2 tens, and I would say, okay, what is 2 tens? Oh, it's 20. So it's 20p. Okay. Again, as we get more confident, we would just jot down that. And then we're at £2. So remind them, we're going to 5. So we're going to 500. £5 or 500p. So how many pounds am I looking at? So always be clear. Here we're dealing with how many pennies, how many tens, how many pounds. So how many pounds do I need? 2, 3, 4, 5. I need 3 pounds. And again, as they get more confident, they would possibly just be able to make this little note to themselves. So I end up with £3.25. And that's a nice and easy way to do change. Obviously, there could be a stage where they could be a bit more confident and they could skip some of this. So for example, I've got £1.56. If children are really confident with their number bonds to 100, they might be able to spot straight away that to get to the next pound, I need 44p. And so they don't need to do all of these steps, they can do one big jump. So one big jump is 44p, gets me to £2, and then we would need another £3. So £3.44. I think I've discussed this already. The common mistake that children will make with this kind of thing is that they will look at the 6 and they'll say, well, that's a 4. They'll look at the 5 and say they need 5 to get to 10. The problem is that there, they've got 110. So they've gone too far. So that's why we sometimes do this in between step here, because it sort of breaks it down and means that they can't make that mistake, because they will often make this sort of mistake. Okay, so that's your explanation of change. If anybody's got any questions or comments, just pop them in below. Thanks.